Last week, we brought you stories of pepper-spraying cops being brought to justice in California and New York. This week, we speak with Damien Crisp, one of the OWS activists who is suing NYPD officer Anthony Bologna for firing pepper spray at demonstrators during a march to Union Square on September 24th. The NYPD determined that Bologna had violated departmental guidelines and docked him 10 days vacation after the incident occurred last year. Now, the police department has taken the unusual step of refusing to defend Bologna in a lawsuit over the incident. Our correspondent spoke with Damien Crisp to find out more about what happened that day and why he is suing. Here's what he had to say about the case.
We had marched up to Union Square, if you remember, and leaving Union Square, headed back to Zuccotti Park, the police changed their tactic, and suddenly there were these sort of orange nettings were brought out. The first time I had seen them, and people were pushed to the left, pushed to the right, people sort of randomly thrown down and arrested, and it seemed like a way to sort of break up the crowd, like with a certain amount of violence. So we made a turn onto University Place, and we were walking down the sidewalk, and sort of in the middle of the block we met with another orange netting that cut me off from my girlfriend at the time, so she was on one side and I was on the other side. And she eventually got roped into the netting, and so we found ourselves standing there, maybe 10 or 15 people within the netting. In front of us, people were, who seemed to be journalists, were sort of beaten, thrown to the ground. There were all sorts of little incidents in front of us, outside of the net. And at some point, someone inside the net was grabbed and ripped over the net and thrown into the street. So it was a scene where suddenly the NYPD had just created like a massive amount of pretty violent, like, social upheaval, I would describe it as.
And of course, we just learned last week of the official departure of Lieutenant John Pike, another infamous pepper spraying cop who was caught on video pepper spraying peacefully demonstrating students at UC Davis at very close range in a video that went completely viral and was seen around the world. Do you see a connection between the departure of John Pike, who we just learned has officially left the campus police force at UC Davis after being on 8 months paid administrative leave, and what's happening here with the NYPD refusing to pay Anthony Bologna's legal fees?
I mean, I see two different connections. One, the motivation, or maybe sort of like the allowance to do that. What made him feel like he was justified in doing that? I think that's a broader issue. It's a social issue, and it has to do with what we allow in American society. That we are, moving closer and closer to wanting security over freedoms, and we see, how the American public sees, how the military operates, torture, illegal detention, ignoring human rights, and I can't help but think that, that's in at least the subconscious of the mind of anyone who is either doing security or is a police officer or has some kind of power in that regard. At the same time, in our system, which has been so corrupted by money, I do think that the legal system, the justice system, is sort of our one. It's our one place to find recourse. I've seen that throughout Occupy. It goes back and forth, and it depends on who the judges are and who the lawyers are in the situation. But there's still there still is, justice is still possible, I feel like.
What role do you think the video of the incident that so many people have seen on YouTube has played or will play as this case goes forward?
most of my role in Occupy was, I was a writer before it began and an artist, and I do a lot of writing online, and I had an audience that I could go back to and report about Occupy online. So, and also a lot of photography that I did. So, you know, that's one way. You know, I guess what I'm trying to say is online is probably the blood of Occupy. You know, and these memes and these sort of viral moments of things that happen within Occupy, I think are very important. And I know, and you probably know this too, that the week after the pepper spray incident, it seemed to double or triple the crowd that came to Zuccotti.
So for the people watching at home or, you know, other activists in the movement, is there anything else that you want people to know about what happened to you and your participation or the NYPD's actions?
Sure. I mean, you know, something I hear a lot, and because I am, you know, a bit public with my thoughts, is, you know, people will, and they're free to do so, will say, well, you know, you're just moaning, you know, you were just pepper sprayed and you weren't, you know, this or you weren't that, or, and, you know, maybe you shouldn't have been protesting or whatever, maybe you shouldn't have been with this group, or, but the fact is, it was a non-violent protest. It was a non-violent civil disobedience. You know, we didn't ask for a permit because you don't ask the system that you're protesting for a permit. But I just want everyone to know that that Occupy has a good heart, and everything I've ever seen, there was never a reason for any kind of police brutality.